And you can see there's a lot of key first picks already taken away. The Lee Sin used to be an LPL special for being first pick, but Renekton has been left open, which is a champion that usually just get a high priority on the ban list. The same goes for Nocturne as well. But it seems like we talked about this bot side pressure. iBoy already onto the Varus has been seeing a lot of attention due to just how potent he is as a poke champion. He doesn't need a lot of resources, pretty cheap build. And then you usually pair it up with either Braum or Tahm Kench to keep it safe for the remainder of the game until you get to that nice point in time.
Speaking of champions that tend to get drafted a lot blind here, that Akali hover coming in from the side of WE, I actually wouldn't be too surprised to see that locked in. Just because it's such a strong pick right now, the flexibility to be able to put that onto Mole or onto Breathe, I expect that to be Breathe. Breathe loves to play this champion and try to be able to beat his opponent, especially in someone like Cube that we expect to be playing a little bit more onto the weaker side top.
Here's the thing about Akali, there is ways to kinda go for that counter. We've seen 3 champions basically be utilized into a 4 with Lucian if you count him. But Jace, Sylas, and LeBlanc are kind of the go-to at the moment to go into the Akali. Sylas for the skill matchup, Jace because you can keep a shot in and move that pressure to the other side lanes that we talked about. And then LeBlanc because you have some sort of kill pressure as well onto the Akali in laning phase. But they're actually going to opt in for the Nautilus here and go for the instantaneous CC. So right now if there's a carry member, quite easy to just get the depth charge down and try and solo out an individual target from the side of WE to get a pick here. But you have some pick potential. You got the chains, you got the depth charge now, but you don't have too much disengage right now. It's this dog pile we already see coming through from World Elite is going to be very scary to play through if you get behind already.
It's so funny though to see the adaptations, the changes that come in from these teams when it comes to a lot of these picks. There's that Lucian ban that you were talking about being good into the Akali, but the one that really stands out to me is this Gwen. Gwen having been such a high priority throughout this summer split so far, a lot of teams have actually been letting through a lot longer lately. They're not as confident playing this champion anymore.
There is some sort of matchups that still good into it. I think Nocturne, that you just saw Rare Atom ban here, is one of these champions that do fairly well in towards the laning phase. There we go, LeBlanc ban as well on towards the Akali. But the likes of Sylas and Jace are still up going into it, but make no mistakes. Akali usually, when you get to like that 20-minute mark, starts taking over towards the backline. So you kind of have a timer on yourself where you have to utilize set pressure, where either we get a lead here or it's just kind of doomed. We hit the Akali 2-item power spike. Let's just go next, I guess.
Ooh.
But junglers actually haven't been picked up here. The Diana came through, and then the Olaf is a champion we haven't seen in a while. We saw Kasa trying to make it work quite recently, but unfortunately as well he took a loss on it.
And I was about to say, you say junglers haven't been picked, but Leyan has played this Volibear. Even though Cube has also played the Volibear twice, there's that flexibility they still have within their composition. And I almost wonder, they grab this Renekton, and maybe they can grab Sylas as well. They can grab something for this mid lane, or just to be able to rotate wherever Akali goes.
Right now, I feel like Sylas is one of the better ones you can go for. You need some AP in your composition, and you already have 2 melees that would pair up well with the Volibear to create skirmishes around, just to have CC in every lane whatsoever. And you do have some good ultimates to steal as well. There's the Olaf, there's the Leona, there's Akali as well for the skill matchup. I'm not the biggest fan of Orianna, but we will get it either way. I feel like as of recent times, Orianna can be a bit of a bait pick where it just takes too long for you to actually amp up. The items are still very expensive to get to become this clear wave, clear champion. And towards the skirmishes of the end, there's just so much mobility on WE right now. Shockwave's not going to work on Olaf. Akali's very mobile. The same goes for Ezreal. So for WE, I would just love them to get more of this stockpile. And there we go. Gnar into the Renekton, a very traditional counter in the sense, a soft counter rather. If Renekton does get a lead into Gnar, he takes over the lane. But if Gnar stays even, it does go on towards him. So there we have it, our 2 team compositions.
Very interesting to see. It's so funny though. I look at Rare Atom's composition, and while they have these elements to be able to try to neutralize the early game of WE, they still retain being able to scale up, hold on, and be able to have these team fights that they always like to build around. While WE, they kind of want to make sure they're getting Mole ahead, don't they?
They really do here, and you know, it's just what's the bot side of them. I think when you look at Rare Atom's composition, you leave bot lane alone. you play around skirmishes towards the top side of the map. You have a lot of skirmish potential with the Volibear, with the Renekton. They're very potent with their CC combinations together and how quickly they can burst someone down with the Call of the Meek and the Thundering Strike, whatever it's called, coming through from Volibear as well. At the same time, though, Breed is on a ranged matchup. It should be fairly easy for him to work with this. And Olaf as well, once they hit that 6, is going to have easy backline access to get together with the Akali. So for the side of WE, it's very much about starting that snowball. It's very much about getting this dogpile composition to work and just neutralize the carriers from the side of Rare Atom. Because remember, not too much disengage. Yeah, you have the Nautilus, but outside of that, they're basically on their own. So for the side of Rare Atom, it's just about staying even. It's just a Rare Atom playstyle. I don't think you could have gotten a much more Rare Atom style going into this. If you go into 2 items, it'll be very what do you say? It'll be very execution based still. Because even going into the 20-minute mark, if you're even, the champions of WE, they still scale quite nicely. Like, this is going to be very execution based, and I just right now have to favor WE a bit, as I think there's a bit more ease of execution with their dogpile champions.
Let's see how they're going to do with that dogpile as we load up onto the Rift. Game 1 here to start off our weekend. Rare Atom, Team WE.
And there we go. Not looking like we're going to get any early skirmishes.
One day I will get my wish. Why don't teams like to fight at level 1 anymore? This is outrageous. It's unfair.
Oh, well, you might still get it. This is Olaf.
Yes.
No, okay, so Missing did just pick up a sweep, but they have an Olaf. They can go for a 125 in weight.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to be looking for here.
Good, WE. Let the hatred I love it. And look, Leyan's on this side of the map too. Wanted to be able to start onto the red buff by himself, but can't. Has instead go for some chicken, just get some chicken nuggies and then be able to bail out of there completely while losing red buff. And there's a good chance that if Beishang is smart on this one, he's just gonna book it immediately to his own red.
Yeah, iBoy taking some really good trades here as well, so not a complete split map situation. I like what Leyan did, because usually when Olaf takes away your red buff, he just takes away your whole bot side camps as well. But the fact that he got to just clear out the Raptors, made sure that he wasn't going to fall too far behind. But there we go. Moves off to his top side of the map immediately, just to make sure that we won't actually get this split map decision after the Raptors was taken away, because then Beishang would actually lose out on the XP on that split map.
And it's Olaf. Olaf is great at these skirmishes. It's so unfortunate for Leyan here, because what can you do in this matchup? You just see an Olaf invade your jungle, take red buff while you were on chickens, knowing you can't stop him, even if you ran immediately to his red buff to try to contest it. It's Olaf. He's gonna still fight you. Like we're seeing the fight here in the bot lane, actually getting that ignite already out of Hung.
Yeah, and it does make it a bit awkward as well from Leyan, because it's going to take a long time to get back towards the bottom side of the map if you want to play for those crocs in and get them in the inventory, but then you lose out on the top side map pressure that you also wanted. It was a reason he started bot. He wanted to path towards the top side of the map, and now he got nothing to do. You can see him running around on the minimap. There's really no camp clear. There's no dive potential onto Breed. He's playing a ranged champion. It's hard to go onto. So Leyan, he's kind of just running a bit confused around in life, not really knowing what's up for him right now. So I think they're just going to be trading on towards the Scuttles, and then you're going to have Beishang playing for the bot side Scuttle and perhaps playing for the bot side as well. Even though you talked about Elk Missing, they are quite low, but they do still have the CC setup if they want to go for any skirmishes.
But I like this play coming in from Rare Atom. iBoy and Hong, they got this priority into the bot lane with Elk having no mana and very little health to be able to stay in this lane. They push it out completely so they can try to see if they can wrestle a little bit of control away from Beishang. Help out Leyan just a little bit. It's sure not really netting him too much, but at least it's enough knowledge for Leyan to be able to get onto his Krugs and feel like not losing out too much.
Yeah, and you know, the same thing can kind of be said for WE here, because in this instance, yes, nothing happened from both junglers. They didn't have a specific influence. But fact is that Leyan wanted to path off towards the top side of the map. He wanted to play for Cube in this situation on Renekton. And because he wasn't able to do that with the right camp setup, Breathe was just able to take over against the Renekton lane, which is what they wanted to start. So Beishang, actually with this early invade, set up his top laner without even being top lane because he disrupted the pathing from Leyan.
Yep.
And this is some of the nice things you can do with these late invades, and this is some of the consequences that late invade had for the early game.
Like what are you gonna do as a Crocodile into Gnar? You're not really having a fun lane. I mean, they should just call Gnar the Crocodile Hunter at this point, because he just can constantly harass poor Cube, make it so he's having a miserable time in this top lane. But I will give respect over to Cube. Despite all of that, at least he's been able to maintain a decent enough CS so that he's not falling too far behind like we oftentimes see with a Gnar versus Renekton matchup.
And you can see towards the first objectives as well. Obviously, it is going to be that Mountain Drake. A lot of it's going to be pressure-based. Right now, AD carries have been left alone. Huang on towards the mid lane here, but I think we're going to be looking towards some setup soon for the first objective as well. I think we're going to be looking at Mole once he hit that level 6. We could start looking for some of these skirmishes that we talk about as well. But right now, on towards the Drake. It is an early start. We see this quite often for Olaf. You want to get the objective stacking as soon as possible. Both top laners does have TP. Breathe just back as well if you want to go back here in a situation where you need the TPs, but it looks like it's just going to be forfeited. The pressure right now for Rare was not
iBoy. Oh! I saw him on the mini-map. I knew what he was trying to do, and it was actually an early smite from Beishang as well. There was that potential had he let loose the arrow a bit earlier that he stole it away.
And up towards the top side of the map, they're trying to cross-map it. They're trying to go for some plays where they're going to be able to, you know, get some resources outside of losing the Drake. But Breathe still fairly healthy,
Leyan's not 6
here.
though.
Not in a position where they can dive him, and the level 6 did just come through. But he is forced to back with the minion wave a bit, but it looks like Leyan is just going to back. So once again, cross-map will come through from the bottom.
There is cleanse, there is flash for iBoy, and he actually retains both of them, despite that looking like a pretty good skirmish on the side of the bot lane for WE. Unfortunately, they weren't able to really keep the fight going long enough for Beishang to be in position. And now, Olaf having to back off. Honestly, looking at all this early lead, the triple buff that we saw from Beishang, well, it was able to help out a little bit in the top lane. I don't really see this massive boon that we normally see for the top lane, especially from Beishang and Breathe here in this early game just yet.
Well, a lot of it does also come down to the fact that, you know, it's going to take some time to actually have some kill pressure. You can see Breathe even opted in for the plated steel caps in the beginning. It's just not in a position where you look for instantaneous kill pressure. You're rather looking for wave pressure. You're looking for priority instead. You're looking for safety up towards the top side of the map and have a bigger impact on towards the team fighting once we get to that point in time as well. So for World Elite right now, as we talked about, yes, snowballing does rely on, or yes, they do have snowballing potency in their composition, but they're also fine with just going into 2 items as well. They are fine with just picking up these Drakes, picking up the pressure on the waves, because if Rare Atom is never willing to opt into a fight around an objective due to them not having pressure, that's totally fine for WE as well.
But at the same time, look at the CS differentials between the two teams right now. I gotta give iBoy some massive credit in this bot lane with how much control him and Hung have been able to maintain over Elk and Missing, despite a couple of times WE have wanted to engage.
And that's the thing here, you know, we talk about Rare Atom as well, like they need to go even a bit here as well. And I think the best case scenario for them is that they're able to net themselves some objectives here towards the top side of the map. As we can see, they had the pressure on towards the mid lane of the map, they're moving up Hong as well, just so the fact that if a skirmish were to break out around the top side of the map, they would have the advantage, they would have the position where they'd be able to capitalize and actually get a lead here. So the question is, where do you want to put this? Because you want it initially to play for Cube in the early game, but right now I don't feel like that's going to be the case any longer. Right now I feel like you want to be able to set some of this pressure on towards the bot side of the map. So next time you have pressure in the beginning, I would love for them to move it towards the bottom side of the map. I would love for the Orianna to push in the Akali, make sure you can put that pressure elsewhere, preferably down towards the bottom side of the map where you have dive pressure as well. But no, it looks like we're going to move it up towards the top side of the map with Volibear having the ultimate as well. Breathe though does have that Narbot, so this could be dicey.
Trying to see what they're going to be able to get the Stormbringer up. It's the Gnar ult already out of Breathe. This dive could be a lot easier now. They're just waiting it out. They have dominance. They have 2 ults. Here comes the Stormbringer on top of Breathe. He's now mini trying to flash away, but the dominance is already popped by Cube. They've got him dead, and it's first blood for Rare Atom.
Yeah, and really nicely done there. Oh, Leyan almost goes down as well. But now comes the cross map. Every time you put pressure elsewhere, your map on towards the other side will be vulnerable. But no, this doesn't look like they want to go for the dive here. All summoner spells still up for the bot lane. You can see mid lane already from FoFo with his pressure is moving into the fog of war, calling off the dive for WE here. So all in all, really nicely done from the side of Rare Atom, where it's actually them who's exposing the top side. Something we expected from World Elite or WE, and certainly not Rare Atom.
Yeah, this is honestly incredible to see from Rare Atom. The fact that they're trying to make sure they can get these leads early, but it's honestly still even within what Rare Atom tend to play, isn't it? It's like, yeah, sure, they get the kill top lane, great dive, beautifully done. But they're also maintaining these CS leads. They're maintaining the fact that they're trying to scale up into this mid, into this late game, to a point where all they have to do is be patient. This is not a typical LPL team that likes to fight rough, fight early, and fight often. They're playing a lot more methodical than we've seen from other teams.
And WE, they're kind of falling into this playstyle as well. We talked about them, how they're the kind of team that likes to create leads in the early game and then create skirmishes, offset leads to just grow their gold lead exponentially. But this time around, that's not something they've been able to do. This time around, they've been forced to kind of play this calculated game as well. And now, we talked about how they picked up the first strike, but this time around, Rare Atom with their pressure is looking like the team who wants to pick it up as the first step. But you can already see on the minimap, Breathe is moving down as well. They want to fight for this strike as well. They want to put pressure onto this objective and keep their Drake stacking.
The big problem, though, for WE is even though they have great flank wards, Breathe is still mini and he has nothing built up in that rage bar. He now has to be able to try to see if he can get it up as quickly as possible so we can have that creative flank angle. Otherwise, he's not really going to be able to impact this fight as much as he'd want to, but his presence alone was enough to stop RA from trying to contest this dragon.
I just would have wished if that was the play from Rare Atom where you wanted to forfeit it, you would have been topside with the Rift Herald to just take down the turret. You can see they are moving members up now. I don't know if they're going to be there in time. I think they will. And there we go, Rift Herald will be dropped. But I think they could have got a lot more out of that play if the play from the beginning was, oh, we don't actually want to contest the Drake. Just cross-map it towards the top side instead. With Breathe moving down, you could have forced his TP back towards the top side of the map or kept pushing on. And no, they won't actually even finish off the turret. So they are not getting the full value outside of that Rift Herald.
Oh wait, they might. The cannon minion's actually getting a lot of damage onto that turret. Oh, come on, come on, come on, melee minions. Come on, you got this, I believe. Oh, he's trying to keep him away. He was trying to make sure Q got no gold.
That was so good.
Was beautiful out of Breathe.
Okay, so they still get the 50 gold you get from just taking down the turret, but no one got the first turret value because he was taken down by minions. That was so well played from Breathe.
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of wondering, I'm like, wait, what is he doing? He's letting the turret go. And then it clicked right when he went Mega and was able to gnar away Cube that he was purely trying to make sure to deny extra gold into the pocket of this Renekton. There's even worse into this matchup, not really getting that influx of gold that he really would love to try to see if he can be able to take over the 1v1 matchup. Right now, though, looks like not too much is going to happen at the moment, just because after that play, you gotta imagine Cube's kind of wondering what he can do from this moment. What can he do to be able to try to get more of a lead over Breathe, who's maintaining, you know, even CS. The biggest problem I see for WE is the fact their other lanes are still falling behind their opponents.
Yeah, 100% I am back.
Aha, that's what happened. I was wondering what happened. I was like, man, was it something I said?
No, not at all. And there we go. Yeah, usually I was saying that Breathe is kind of the guy that you know, takes over the game physically, just get these solo kills. But this time around, it was big brain time for him. And they do keep the Drake stacking alive. Now, a gold lead has gone over to the side of Rare Atom. But right now, there is also some invisible gold, if we can call it that. The fact that Drake gives you these stats that is not actually accounted for. But you get the armor, extra resistance that obviously you buy for gold, and you get the damage as well from that Infernal Drake. So some hidden gold influx has gone on to the side of WE that does keep these teams fairly even right now. And I think really for Rare Atom, what you're looking for is that you want to fight at the next one. You want to fight at the one where WE is going to put themselves on soul point, just due to the fact that that is going to be that situation where you kind of put yourself on too much pressure. You want to be able to make sure that WE is not just going to have some sort of soul win condition out of nowhere. So with this gold lead that you have built up, you want to make sure that you can create pressure around the next objective.
That's what I'm hoping to see here from RA. They are starting to set up a little bit of that vision control. You can see how it's slowly creeping into the jungle of Beishang, and they're trying to be able to clear it as quickly as possible, knowing 2 minutes still up until that next dragon is going to spawn. But the Rift Herald is the objective that is on the table right now. So it is the trade across the board. WE, just being like, fair trade, whatever. You can have that Rift Herald. We want to be able to get more gold into Elk's pockets.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, they put the pressure towards the bot side of the map. Rare had to move their bot lane up towards the top side. There's not much you can do here. It's just going to be a trade of objectives. So, tower for WE does go over to them. The first one will be towards the bottom side of the map. And then towards the top side, actually set yourself Leyan picking up this Rift Herald. And I think that's going to be a great tool in fighting for the next Drake as well. Because we talked about this one, 1 minute almost for the soul point for WE. If you have that Rift Herald, you can use it for instantaneous pressure in the mid lane. You can use it as a sort of 6-man to just make sure WE has to respond to this one. Make sure they have to give members to another point of the map where you're able to take river control, and with that river control, set up proper engage, or defense rather, for the objective if you want to fight for this trade.
You can tell right now, Rare Adam understand that WE want to fight. Look at the inventory of Hung. He has gone for that Zonius path that we sometimes see early on from supports like Leona, like Nautilus, purely to make sure that you're going to be able to survive a little bit longer. You're going to get the full spell slots out. You're going to be able to get everything onto the right targets, reset from going golden, and do it again.
100%. And right now they're putting in a lot of pressure on towards the mid lane, but at the same time Breathe is creating pressure from the bot side of the map, so they do have some pathing on towards the Drake, and this might be a bit too early. They're going for a play towards the mid lane, but now they won't have the pressure for Drake. Now WE can walk in after having cleaned up the minion. Yes, they get the mid lane turret, which is always nice of course, but Mole is towards the top side of the map. He does have TP himself, and he can move in now if they want to fight for this Drake.
Did RA notice that Breathe went mega? Yes, they did, so they make the call to go on top of this dragon, making sure they can punish the weaknesses built into the kit of Breathe. Breathe has snuck his way in here. Leyan, no, he is going to be able to smite it back. I doubt Breathe actually wants to go for the full fight. He's still got some time, but Leyan, he is actually not as tanky as he would like to be. He's going to have to use his ult just to be able to escape.
But this is very calculated from Rare Atom as well. They get out with the Drake, they got their mid lane turret, and no fight broke out. Yes, they're sacrificing top side of the map, but now we talk about they gained themselves 5 extra minutes at least. Actually 10, because that's only 2 Drakes onto the side of WE. So right now for Rare Atom, this is exactly the game plan that he wanted. This is the kind of by-the-book playstyle we have deemed them as to play.
Yeah, it's right now just seeing how we're going to see it from the two teams, whether or not RA are going to be able to do what they always do best, which is hold out the game, wait it out, and so far it's looking like it has been a great success. Not the most bloody game, not the most action-packed, but that is the formula for Rare Adam. Team WE needed to be able to get these early games because that's always what they've played around. When they've gotten these wins this season so far, they have had immaculate 5 to 10 minute marks fights where they're able to get these early leads topside. Here, we're just not seeing it.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of that comes down to the fact that Rare Atom, if viewers are kind of confused why this LPL game is suddenly so slow, this is the kind of style they like to do. They like to slow down the game. They like to, you know, instead of handshaking skirmishes, they handshake cross maps. They never want to fight you in the early game. They don't go for it. They try to make cross map objectives instead. So every time you watch Rare Atom play, or most of the time rather, they want to slow down the game. And this is also on par with the team composition. Orianna needs to get online so she's a threat with the shockwave. She doesn't do too much in the early game when she goes up against the likes of Akali. But speaking of skirmishes,
right now, there's still no Stormbringer for Leyan. He's taken low and killed off by Beishang with ongoing gold. The TP's too late from the side of Rare Atom. Now they're in a bad position. Cube trying to be able to dive into the back line. He's not going to be able to get the kill with the chip, but the shockwave is huge out of FoFo to make sure they can disengage, only losing the jungler for that fight.
And there we go. It's actually going to be first kill for WE going over, but not much more than that. And yeah, I'm not too sure what they were trying to do there. I think they were trying to set up an invade for a red buff that was spawning, but didn't really have their members in place. FoFo up towards the top side of the map was still clearing waves. They do get the TP for brief, but obviously coming in counters as well. And here we get the replay. Yeah, I think they're trying to set up object vision for red buff. It is spawning in 10 seconds, and then They think they have enough members with 3, but apparently World Elite, they just put 4 members into the push. And you know what? I can't fully blame Rare Atom for that one. It's not too often you expect 4 members to defend the red buff.
I gotta give massive props to that shockwave, though, out of FoFo. I feel like that was the only reason Cube was able to survive. Only reason he was able to get that flash back to the team and not have it go categorically wrong for the side of Rare Atom. Just losing the one, sure, it is, Leyan, they lost in that one, but I don't think it's actually the biggest deal. It's not like they had any objective they had to worry about losing. It's still 2 minutes until the Ocean Dragon, 30 seconds until the Baron. They have plenty of time to kill.
100%. And a lot of this, as we already talked about, though, even though we go to the late game, even though this is something Rare Atom wants in their playstyle, we cannot count WE either. It's not like their team composition does not scale either. They have great champions as well for that. A lot of this will be execution based. A lot of this will be based upon how good is our setup. Do we have pressure in the lane? Can we set up good enough vision around playing in the fog of war so they'll get caught up by a shockwave, by a chains of corruption, by this turn factor? For Rare Atom, it's crucial that when we get to a point where they feel like they can fight, that they're the team first towards the objective, that they're the team who is allowed to turn. Because if WE is first, if WE is the team that turns, their team composition is just built better towards backline dive. Their team composition is just built better towards one-shotting an Orianna, towards one-shotting a Varus. That is one of these champions that you're playing for in the late game as Rare Atom.
But look at this itemization out of FoFo, going for that immediate Banshee's Veil, and going over that over the Mythic item just to have that added layer of safety for the team. That's why I mentioned before, there's the stopwatch in the inventory of Hong. Of course, he had to use it in that previous fight, but if he's able to complete that into Azonia's, again, delaying, making sure these assassins, the ones that want to be able to dive into the backline or even chase them down, run them down as Beishang wants to do, they're just not going to be able to do so fast enough.
And that's the thing. Now we talk about these setups as well. Right now the pressure is for World Elite. Right now the pressure is around them. You can see the vision control right now in River. All the control right now belongs to WE, and it's up to Rare Atom to come in here and clear some of the way. You can see WE already put themselves in some flank position mole onto the fog of war, and they're just poking them out here.
Trying to see if they can wait it out until they're going to be able to have Breathe in Mega Gnar form. They've got them corralled here right at the choke of the river, trying to make sure that Breathe can continue to harass them with his boomerang, always waiting it out and baiting them in. They have no idea that Mole's here, but now that he's spotted out, they have to be careful. Mole's getting chased down by Q, getting a little bit of damage, but not nearly enough. Chain of Corruption is able to connect. They're trying to see if they can get at least the Ragnarok out, and now the jungler is nearly low. Mole is on the other side. Breathe wants to be able to dive in, but they are waiting patiently. They have no desire to let him have a huge Gnar ult to be able to win this fight once more for WE.
But the poke is enough. The poke is enough to make the members of WE to just get away here. You can see Beishang almost dead as well, had to recall. Mole did have TP. Looked like he wanted to recall and then go for a TP play on towards the fight, but as soon as the rest of the members was poked out, nothing more to them to do, and it looks like we still have a one more score match. It looks like we still have this slow-paced game that we get from Rare Atom, so yeah, last time I checked, this was LPL, right? We're not doing LCK, are we?
No. This is Rare Atom for you. This is pretty typical of what we see from Rare Atom games. In fact, one of my favorite stats is that if you look at average kills per game and average deaths per game for Rare Atom, they're nearly dead even. It's 11-11, only off by a couple decimal points between kills and deaths here. That's how slow-paced they tend to play these games. They always want to be able to just get the objectives. Kills are negligible to them. It doesn't really matter about actually being able to kill the opponent so long as they can slowly suffocate them and continue to get these leads with CS and with gold.
And you're completely right about that one, but the problem is right now, it's still so even between the two teams here. It doesn't feel like one team is just running away with it. Yes, as of right now, Rare Atom has been the team that got most of these new objectives. They are the one who started to start up the Drake stacking. But you know, most LPL teams would be like, all right, let's thread in that Baron now. Let's make sure that we can bait in the enemy team and just come for them so we can turn on them. Right now, it does look like they want some skirmishes. You can see a lot of pings outside of the map, and a lot of control has been started to be put out from the side of Rare Atom around this Baron.
We don't do these big old fights here. It's Rare Atom. Even though Leyan, it looks like he's going to be caught out, he's going to be able to go over the wall and stay with the flash to stay alive. He stays barely holding on to his dear life, and this might give WE a chance to be able to turn on to the Baron.
They won't. They won't. Just outside how this game has gone, we know they won't. They're
Cowards.
they're most likely gonna get a mid lane turret. Not even that. There's just a wave clear coming in from iBoy. Oh, so close to getting a kill there.
Cube, my friend. You got to play a little bit smarter with your math on that one. He got really low on that breathe, nearly punishing him. But unfortunately for WE, it just doesn't seem like they have that much control. Despite the fact that they were able to get Leyan to be able to back off really quickly. They got Cube to be able to dash away. Unlike with Rare Atom, when they had something similar, even though they didn't get the kill on the Beishang, they were able to immediately get themselves an objective off of it.
I don't like it. We're 25 minutes into the game soon, and it's 1-1 apiece.
Look, if you didn't learn from last week's Rare Atom matchup, I don't know what to do.
I know Rare Atom does this. I know Rare Atom does this. They always give us the Rare Atom cast, don't they?
Hey, you know,
I have come to like WE from their aggression in the early game. Something we really have not seen this time around, and something we wanted to see from them, especially when you opt in for an Olaf. Yes, you got the split map situation in the beginning, well, kinda, where Bree was able to farm safely, but after that, you really haven't been gained much from this Olaf pick. Volibear going into the later stages at least have some CC lockdown that can come in clutch in some of these teamfight situations.
Guldborg, this is where I'll learn you. When it comes to Rare Atom, the reason why they're fun to watch is because you never know what's going to happen after 30 minutes. You don't know what kind of coin flip we're about to get. You can get the realm warps in like you got against top esports. You can have a 50-minute game where suddenly somehow they just are able to find the right pick at the right time, get Baron win off that. You just don't know. It's always going to be a mystery of what you unlock with this team.
Well, is it going to be for this next Drake? Because the next Drake is soul point for both teams. Next Drake is something both teams would be interested, both for their own net gain, but also because they don't want their opponent to get to that soul point where it'll really put the pressure on the map. But you know what? Normally, I'd say, all right, go for it. But outside of the course we've seen from this game, I wouldn't be all too surprised if we saw one of the teams back off after they've gotten a bit of poke down to them. And this is what we like from Rare Atom. They get the control, they can poke them down with the Varus, they can poke them down with the Orianna ball, and then they can have the turn. This is what we want to see from them. But WE, you can see they want to get into flank positions as well.
I love this, though. This is what WE are trying to do, is make sure that Breathe, again, is going to be able to get that Mega Gnar at the right point. Now, will Rare Atom fall for the betas? Whew, Leyan takes a lot of damage. This could give Mole the opportunity to be able to get over the wall and assassinate that jungler. If they can kill him, this is going to be a lot easier to be able to get themselves within soul point. They're trying so desperately to be able to get this Volibear, but they just haven't got the position just yet.
Yeah, pay attention to the poke though. You can see iBoy, he's trying to rain his damage down with some of these arrows, but just not connecting yet, and that make the situation harder. Drake has spawned now, and it is being started up by WE.
Breathe is going to be Mega as well. He's looking to see if he can dive into the back line. Can they wait this out long enough? It's down to 50%. The flash comes in. It looked like they had missed, but Breathe is here with an Aura to the wall, trying to see if they can get on the Hog. They've already got the kill on until the end, and they're trying to see if it's going to be a trade. Jungler for jungler, support for support. Not necessarily dead just yet, but they got Mole in the back line to be able to get the kill. Like Cube trying to be able to do the same to Elk to chase him down. FoFo was able to get the kill onto Breathe. Only Mole surviving. That is a 3-for-4 fight between the two.
Thank God it finally happened. We got this fight, but Drake still have not been picked up. But the third Ocean Drake should be going over to Rare Atom. And they played their composition down to a T there, really. The poke came out from iBoy. FoFo did a great job as an Orianna to just zone out the members, get the damage down with the ball, and a pretty decent shockwave to solidify that fight. And here we go, replay does come through. It looks like it's a fight that should go for WE in the beginning, because they actually get a pretty decent Gnar ultimate here. Get two members, solo that one, but he does have that TP. And once again, when the fight starts to get split up here, when the shockwave comes down onto two members, FoFo is untouched in this team fight. The composition of WE, they want to get access to the back line. If they do not get access to the back line, Rare Atom just has a better front-to-back composition to fight in.
The thing, and like you said, it looks so good from WE. Somehow, Rare Atom, again, they keep getting away with these late-game fights. I don't know how it always manages to work out for them there. It looked like it was a nearly dead-even fight. A 3-for-4 in the late game doesn't usually amount to too much, but it was just the right members of Rare Atom to stay alive, get themselves their third dragon. Now they're within Ocean Soul Point with 3 Ocean Dragons already.
And here's the thing, though. When now we know Rare Atom, yeah, we just got a lead. What do we do with that? We slow the game down again, don't we? It is just the Rare Atom playstyle. So, 4 more minutes onto the Soul. Baron is still up, and you can see they're clearing out the vision. But most of the time, what Rare Atom does is that they just like to keep Baron as an open opportunity. They don't really see it as something they need to go for, as some other teams would think. They don't really see it as a bait tool to start it up and opt into team fights, because they'd much rather take the safe bet, which right now is, you know, this 3-minute mark around the next Ocean Soul. And you can see, no, they're not starting it up. They just keep waiting, and they just keep clearing vision. They just keep telling WE, buy pink balls, we'll just clear it. Keep wasting your gold on that.
This could have been an opportunity for WE. iBoy had just recalled, wanting to be able to complete that item, be able to get himself this Relda's Grudge, just so that he's going to be able to have a little bit more slow potential to try to see if he can kite away from Mole. We've already seen that Mole is going to be a powerful tool for WE if they can continue to have him dive onto the backline. But he's got to take care of both iBoy and FoFo, and that is a really tall task to ask.
I think right now, the member you'd actually go for if you can as a collective unit will be FoFo.
I agree.
His positioning in the last team fight, the amount of damage and sustain, and actually mobility you get from the Orianna was just too much for WE to actually go for. But I think it's still going to take some time before we do get to that point. So, I mean, 2 minutes is the point onto the next strike. So if anyone's got a bathroom break, quickly hurry, and then I promise 2 minutes we might get some kills around the next strike, because now is certainly the time to do it.
We'll get the popcorn too at that rate, just because it's going to be exciting when that fight happens, and it could break open this game wide. I'm not going to count WE out of this one by any stretch of the imagination. They are only 2,000 gold behind here. It's 31 minutes into the game, and they have an Akali. They have an Ezreal. These two champions, as the game continues to scale up, are going to be incredibly powerful tools.
I mean, Ezreal is probably the most powerful he'll ever be on 3 items here. This is like incredibly amount of damage you get out from this Aurelius Grudge with the slow as well. Problem right now is that iBoy is at the same point in power spike as well. His arrows just takes you down to half HP if you get hit by an amplified W-powered arrow here. So, mid lane pressure is being opened up here. iBoy could be in danger.
He was in a lot of danger right there, but now WE, you've gone a little bit too far. Look at Breeze, he's sticking low. They're on top of missing, and he's low as well, and he's annihilated by those arrows. They're going to continue to see if they can chase down. They've gotten Ezreal. The bot lane is gone. Trying to see who else is going to be on the menu. They have Breathe having to use his ult just to be able to disengage, and you better know that Rare Atom are going to be able to punish that with this tier 2 mid.
They for sure will be. Still 1 minute to Drake, so the members of WE should be respawning in time as well. But right now, Rare Atom, they finally find a team fight where they're willing to go for it. So I hope you came back from that bathroom break, because now the game finally does get a bit exciting. We get a team fight. It could be looking on to ending here.
Oh, I guess it's 20 seconds until Elk is going to be respawning. Mole dives into the backline, but he is annihilated. What happened to him? Even Breathe trying to be able to get away. He wasn't able to go Nega in time, and they pull back in. Poor Beishang. Yeah, had the early game, but it's a late game. We all know that this is what Rare Atom played for. You weren't able to get the lead quick enough. Now Elk, he has been able to respawn, but is it going to be enough to deter Rare Atom? You better bet it's not. They're going to be able to take down this next turret, even though Q goes gold, and they pull back in, and the damage on top of the bot lane is a massive amount from Rare Atom to take this game 1 over WE.
And there we go, out of nowhere. We actually thought that this was going to come down to the soul win condition here. We thought, all right, now you just get the reset. But Rare Atom, very decisive towards the end. I like this coming out from them. As soon as they knew they could end the game, they just went for it.
And this is the thing, when you look at how Rare Atom play, they always play for these scaling moments, trying to make sure they're getting as much gold. And even if it's not necessarily a massive lead, it's enough of a lead on the map that's forcing your opponents to have to make these plays. And you saw right there, WE played right into their hands. They wanted to make that play. They thought they had iBoy, but it got themselves way overextended.
And I think WE kind of fell trapped to what Rare Atom does. A lot of teams likes to play these skirmish heavies. I've already talked about WE is one of those teams as well. But Rare Atom, they just laid this very slow game pace on towards the game where you stall out the objectives, you don't really go for any early skirmishes, you just trade cross maps, you go for turret plating elsewhere, you go for camps, you stay relevant with the gold. And once they came to a point where they felt like, all right, we can just get a pick on towards them here and just end the game, that was just it. It came out of nowhere. The game felt so slow, and then all of a sudden, it was over.
And that's the thing. That is what we were setting up this entire time on what Rare Atom do. It's, what was it? I think 20 minutes into the game, it was 1-1 in kills. It wasn't until we had that potential soul point that could have been picked up by Rare Atom that WE tried to see if they can force a fight around it, and unfortunately, just barely, they were the ones falling behind.
And I think going into the next game as well, WE, they need to find them some more instantaneous engaged tools, rather. I think they still had a few of them here, but I think specifically it came lacking from the jungle. The Olaf, once again, we talked about it in draft. We don't see it often, and I think there's a reason for that. You just don't get the same out of this champion anymore. Yes, it's very much about a snowballing meta, but it's also staying relevant towards the mid game. And Beishang on towards the Olaf just couldn't offer his laners anything. Leyan, on the other hand, great pick potential, great peel rather, and also just great tower dive setups for these cross maps as we talked about. It just felt like Leyan's pressure on towards the map was much more relevant than Beishang's.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that even though we saw the attempted play by Beishang, it just didn't amount to enough, and what we needed to see from him was trying to make sure they could utilize that lead. You're highlighting it helped a little bit for Breathe, but just clearly wasn't enough. It didn't shut down iBoy. It didn't even deter FoFo for constantly getting these CS leads in mid lane over Mole that this Akali just wasn't able to scale to the point she needed to.
And I also think a lot of that came down to the fact that they saved last pick for Breathe as well. But they saved last pick where it's like the Gnar into Renekton. And you know, yeah, that's good for stabilizing the lane, but not taking over like we know Breathe wants to do. Beishang wasn't able to play for him either. And you can see it's fairly even in the damage and everything coming out here. Gold lead obviously went over to Rare Atom towards the end when they picked up the Baron. But up until that point, it was pretty much even the whole time. It wasn't like an exponential growth lead. It was only 2k gold leads separating them. And it still felt like WE was competitive going into some of the fights.
It just felt like they didn't know what they wanted to do in the late game. They knew that they had to do something because Rare Atom were just delaying. They were making sure to wait patiently, make sure that they could play around these objectives and utilize the choke points for Varus, for Orianna to whittle away the health bars of WE that they wanted to get anything. They saw iBoy, they're like, perfect, this is someone we can actually kill right away, but he still slipped right through their fingers.
He most certainly did. And I think, you know, a lot of it came down to Rare Atom. They actually just played the composition they drafted better. They had the better front to back. And on the side of WE, they had the better, you know, dogpile on towards the backline. They couldn't get access to the side of the backline. They couldn't get access to the proper setup around the team fights when they came to the objectives. And that just made everything so much easier. And I think FoFo had a stellar performance on the Orianna. We've talked about how he's a great facilitator and the likes of Zed, but also when he plays the LeBlanc, he can play that assassin style. And now this time around, bringing in the Orianna, taking a crucial fight around the third Ocean Drake where they just pick up 4 kills is certainly what put Rare Atom in the better position moving forward in the game, moving on to the Baron and moving on to them taking the Nexus.
And honestly, I'd be surprised when we find out the MVP if it wasn't FoFo, but you know what? We'll find that out after the break. We'll be